right, and now we are live. Thank you for joining me. I'm Spencer. Most people call me Dopamine Dysfunctional. I am here with Jen from Genevieve's TikTok. We met, what, 8 months back? Something like that, Jen? It's been a
Yeah, something
while.
like June,
Yeah, so like
June
we've been talking and following
of
each other
21.
for a very long time. You're actually the only person I've met from TikTok in the real world. We happen to just live in the same city, which is awesome. So just dive right in. Why
Okay.
don't you let us know um, what any comorbidities? Because I know you have
Oh
ADHD.
my
Is there
God.
anything else that you have that other people might be able to relate to?
I have fibromyalgia, so I have chronic pain issues.
Oh,
I have I don't know, do you want me to go to the into like religious trauma stuff
I mean, you can
too?
if you want to. This is all up to you.
I mean, it factors in because it had to do with the belief systems and the stuff that ran on my ADHD that I still have to deal with, the expectations and stuff. So yeah,
Sure.
I I'm a former Mormon foreman. Um and let's see what else. Oh, there's some other stuff. I got the depression stuff and the anxiety stuff and I've got the whole those, but wait, there's more, and they just, keep adding on a special thing and you can get it all for one low
Oh,
price.
sure,
Uh,
yeah. You got the
I got
whole
it all for
package,
one low
huh?
price.
Yeah, then
Yeah,
the
I got the
discount.
whole package.
Nice. Yeah, that's I can
I
certainly
don't think
relate to the depression and anxiety. That's me all day long. So,
I've looked a little bit at the autistic stuff. I don't feel a strong resonance or match with that really.
right.
Every once in a while there's a little bit, but pretty firmly in the I think I'm pretty firmly in the ADHD camp.
I would say me too. I actually went through and took the autism diagnosis test just because so many people were like, "Wow, I took this test and it's very revealing." And for me, like my scatter chart, like hardly registered. I'm not.
Hardly registered on that.
Yeah, I don't have any like sensitivities, really, with the exception of like pencils. I just don't like any
Uh-huh.
chalk or pencil, like the grinding, gritty feeling. Not a big fan of that. So, but outside of that, like as far as like social settings were big questions, and I seem to do fine socially. But I think it's really important for people to take those kind of tests because you learn the diagnostic criteria through
Mm-hmm.
like examples. That's the way they test. I thought it was super helpful in just learning and understanding all of it.
Right. I think there's a couple of other things that are coming up as I'm working on stuff, but I mean, as far as the stuff I talk about on TikTok, that's that's pretty much that's pretty much what you get.
Right. Speaking of, you were like me, just kind of motivated to post. You want to talk about what motivated you to actually start posting videos to TikTok?
Sure. I did my all right. So one of my sons and his friend are very in, and they were showing me their TikToks every time I saw them and everything. And these are adult children, and and adult people. And I was like, I don't know. I just don't know if I want to do TikTok. But I kept seeing really ones that I resonated with and that really hit me. I don't know if you ever saw the going shopping at my parents' house.
Oh yeah.
Getting at my parents' house, right? Okay. Yeah, some of those and I went, okay, fine, I'm gonna get my account. And then so I got an account and I was watching and doing things. And then at some point, as I was watching enough things, I realized that's me and I can be me there. And not one thing is all of me And there are lots of different aspects that I do. Like some people are totally ex-Mormon TikTok.
Right.
Right? And that's what they do. Some people are ADHD talk. Some people are mental health TikTok. Some people are polyamory TikTok. Some people are all, oh yeah, that's one. So all of those things, basically everything about me was wrong my whole life. I mean, pick something, name it. I can explain to you how within Mormonism that was wrong about me.
Right.
And I had to squash and stuff and appear okay and so work hard for to be all right, to be all that kind of thing with my ADHD. That's kind of how I ended up with my body. My body just kind of one day started going, here's your bill, ma'am.
Right.
It's time to pay.
Right.
Because I just power through. I just force myself to do it anyway. I was an absolute adrenaline junkie in that I would do, there are so many little things that I do that I have to watch and put new things in their place now that I know what's going on, because I've only been diagnosed for 3-4 months.
Right.
This is brand new for me.
Right. I totally
and
feel you.
I'm not a young chicken here, right? So it went my whole life. There's grease stuff going on. There's all kinds of stuff happening as I look at this, and all kinds of little things that make sense in my life now that I know that I have this.
Right.
And when I was unmedicated for so long, things that make sense in my life I did. Like I'd lay in bed and I wouldn't get up, and I'd do 15 alarms and I'd press snooze and everything like that. I still sort of do, because I don't have a new habit to put in place there yet. I'm working on it, but it's not there yet. And because I needed to wait until the very last possible moment, so I had enough adrenaline so it could make my brain just work.
Right.
So I could go, okay, I'm going to get this done, this done, this done, this done, this done. And I was just like, whoosh. This was probably not a very
happy. You gotta wait for it to build up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I totally understand that. Oh.
And in the meantime, while I'm laying there, I'm planning this, and I'm going, oh, you're not going to have enough time. Okay, well, if I do, and I'm doing like task Jenga in my head.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Oh, that's a great way to say it. Right, you gotta just like poke one.
I'm going, yeah. I just realized that it's like task Jenga. So I'm going, okay, so this one, and I can drop that one down into there, and then this whole thing, and then that'll work, and I can do this, and if I do that, okay, then I can do. So I'm playing task Jenga in my head, so that when I do finally get up, I can just go.
Right. Yeah, I always said like I had to reprioritize everything in my mind anytime I got a new task or anything, right? Like I had to see where it fit in like the order of operations or the priority.
You had a new block float down.
Right,
you had
exactly.
to figure out where it goes
it
into the
but
thing.
I couldn't just like stack it like or put it at the bottom of the list. I literally had to analyze
because you like have a little hole and you have to go. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that's so funny. I want your
not
perspective.
Jenga, Tetris. That's what I meant. I said Jenga, didn't I? I meant Tetris.
Jenga works too because
tower. Yeah. No, but I was seeing in my brain Tetris happening. So task Tetris was what I was doing.
So while we're talking about that, I've made a few videos about how people think and what they see when they think. So clearly you're one of those visual people.
I'm total visual.
Same with me.
So visual. But I know people who are completely not.
Right, that aphantasia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I thought that was the most interesting thing I've learned on TikTok was aphantasia, because I would just assume like the way I think is like the way everybody thinks, right?
I haven't.
No?
And it's so fat. No, from the longest time from I can remember being really, really small and wondering if everybody sees colors the way I do, or if we just all kind of agree and you see something completely different. but we've agreed through the process of this is yellow, that you will call this yellow. But does it look the same to you as it does to me? Are we seeing this? For tiny, I have wondered this.
Yeah, I think I've wondered, those things too, but I've never even considered the fact that people don't see anything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the voice inside your head is different for everybody. And for
Yeah,
me, I
and my
never,
voice
like, piece
changes
that
based
together.
on what situation I'm in,
And
what
that's
it's
super
needed
interesting.
for.
So you're late in life diagnosed. So
Yeah.
you've experienced what I experienced is like that immediate reflection on your entire past through the ADHD lens, right? And your situation being ex-Mormon, you grew up with a very structured system and set of expectations that I
Uh-huh.
think, like your perspective on masking and things like that, I would really like to hear
Oh, sure.
your thoughts on it.
So I had to, well, it gets combined because it's not just the ADHD part for me. My sexuality was wrong. My gender identification was wrong. Um, yeah, it doesn't seem like it's the moment to tell that story right now, but the one I shared with you. But
Mm-hmm.
there was just so much that was wrong. I wanted to dance. I wanted to move. I am so kinesthetic. I want to touch. I want to cuddle. I am a puppy pile person,
Right.
right? I am just all that. Now, can I get to a point that I'm like, okay, I need, yeah, I do. I get to that spot,
Sure. We all do.
but it takes a lot for me to get there. And most of the time, I feel like I'm starving.
Right.
Most of the time I feel like I'm touch starved because it was never appropriate. The a little bit of traveling that I've done in my life, I went to Italy and to Hawaii, and both of when I went those places, um, it was like because they touch, they kiss when they greet, they hug, it's it's so different.
Right. A lot more physical, right?
And it so matches and the speed at which everything has to go. I mean, I can go fast, but I've known there's something about me that's known for a long, long time, even before my fibromyalgia diagnosis, that I was in emergency mode all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't like it. And I kept trying to get out of it. And I couldn't because I needed to be in it to function.
It's the only way to produce, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I told my doctor that exact statement, that exact sentiment, and everything. Like not being
Yeah.
able,
So,
like that panic
oh,
mode is
you wanted me about masking.
right. Oh, sorry.
So that's
we'll
okay. I'm
we'll
just
go off
remembering.
on
I'm
tangents.
trying.
We
I know.
know that.
I try to keep track of at least sort of, so we circle back. Um, and so I had to put on the righteous mask. I had to put on the good mask. I had to put on I like all of this. This is what I'm interested in. I was genuinely interested in mothering and that kind of stuff because I care about people.
Sure.
My why is the why that I am, right? Is I seek out and embrace better ways of being so that I create and inspire others to create deep, intimate, meaningful connections. So yeah, I was totally about all of that, and that was really great for me. The keeping the house clean part and the trying to do all those tasks and the getting married at the right time part and all of those things totally broken for me.
Yeah.
I didn't understand why relationships didn't work for me the same way. And one of my very first therapists, it was kind of funny. He shared with me, he said, okay, so here's just what you do. He says, but there wasn't anything besides this, and this wasn't enough, right? So he says, all right, so it's like inchworms going out on a branch. And in normal relationships, one person goes out a little bit, and then the next person goes out a little bit, and maybe a little bit more. And then you go out a little bit, and a little bit, and a little bit. Okay. And I also understood, RSD when I heard this. Because what I do, he says, this is what you do. You go like here. Right. You're like here hanging out, and you start freaking out because the other person's not there.
Right.
And you start wondering what's going on. And you just got to give the person a little bit of time to catch up, or you got to try to not go all the way out here.
Right.
And I went, okay, great, but
right.
That's what I do.
Right. Like, how do you avoid that? I was gonna say, like, we as ADHDers, like, that's like one of the things we do, right? Is we get very attached very quick. We jump forward through all of the, get to know you phase, right? Like, I think that's like a very common thing for like the ADHD mind to do, is become overly emotional, right? And those emotions we experience more, like we experience them harder, right? Like, so when it comes to relationships, it makes sense that we're out ahead on that branch, right?
We want to know what's important. We want to know what matters. And we know that the noise stuff just doesn't matter. Okay, what your favorite color is, what your favorite kind of cake is, all that kind of stuff, it doesn't matter. We want to know what we can, if we have the same, do we go the same places? Do we dive the same places when we do deep into the pool?
Right.
Do we, because it's interesting because I've had to relearn a new terminology, because I had my whole terminology to describe how I did things.
Right.
And so for me, it was, I'm a deep into the pool kind of person. Right. So we just jump in and we're in the deep end of the pool. And just for you and for anybody else, I'm knitting while we're doing this.
Oh yeah, feel free. I
this crochet was you talk about masking. Crochet was actually my very first fidget toy. It was an acceptable one.
Right.
It was I was crafting something, I was making something. I can almost not even remember not knowing how to crochet.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. So do you think you...
And I used that to mask.
Right.
I used it to mask. Because
I was thinking about, like,
I could hide all of my fidgety. I could channel all of my energy into this. I could do all of it, and I could say, okay, you have to stay scoped right here. Just within this, and you have to stay scoped. You have to do this, and so I could stay scoped. Now, did I want, like, the record player going and this other stuff, and I wanted all of that other stuff at the same time.
Sure, of course.
Right? But having the crochet and having handwork all the time. I did embroidery from an astonishingly young age and did it really, really well. Cross stitch was also counted cross stitch was also part of my life. And now I've got, if I just turn the camera a little bit, not only would you see the doom stuff isn't too bad at this point, but there are this table has a collection and that table has a collection, but there's a spinning wheel right here.
Oh, nice. Wow.
We'll do some of this. There's all of these books. I'm a collector. There's a loom. There's another spinning wheel right down here. So, I've got fiber everywhere. I've got...
Wow. I didn't know you were is that to make your own yarn and everything, right?
Oh yeah, I spin.
Wow. So you go from
so zen.
Raw material.
That's
awesome.
it's like finger painting. with fiber.
I think that's incredible. That's usually like I don't pick up a hobby long enough to like master it, right? Like it's just like I'll get
Well,
into
see,
it for
that's
a
my
little
deep
bit.
into the pool kind of
Right,
part,
right. That's what I was gonna loop it back
right? I
to.
go all the way in. It was funny when I was doing okay, so I picked up knitting. I had knit. Again, deep into the pool, I just said, "Hey, I want to knit something," when I was in my early 20s, because nobody in my family knit.
Right.
So for me, this was kind of a distinguishing thing. I wanted to knit, still fit in with the Mormon other stuff. Anyway, it's complicated, but I picked up knitting and I knit an entire blanket. And I just went in and I said, I need to know how to knit. I don't know how to knit, to this little knit store. And I had them show me, well, this is a knit stitch. Okay, so I did that. And I picked a pattern, and it was a relatively simple pattern. And I just had them teach me right there what the stitches were, and I did it.
And you had it from then on?
And I had it.
That's
And
awesome.
then I only did that blanket. I didn't deep dive into it then. There were other things that I was deep diving into, like scrapbooking and some other stuff. Scrapping has emotional trauma with it right now, so that is gone for right now. So I needed something, and so I got back into knitting. And I got back into knitting, and I there are a few I deep dived. There are a few pictures of some of my knitting stuff, but like this
Oh
is one of
wow.
my first things that I did when I got back into knitting. It's like a I don't know. It's kind of a shawl, but it's like something you'd leave by a chair, so you put it around like when you're reading a book or something. You
Oh
just
sure.
need something over your shoulders or something.
Now,
Um,
when you do this, is it more of like a passive activity, or are you like hyper focused as you work?
Depends on what type of project it is. If I'm doing knitting that has lots of lace and beadwork and stuff that I have to have a chart with to follow, then it's much more active. But this blanket right here, I'm
Ooh, that
really
one's
getting
really
close
cool.
to done on. This actually, I've written a pattern for how to do it, and I have some tutorials for how to do the different blocks and put them together stuff online on YouTube. But I that's what I mean by deep dive. This is potato chippy. I can do this while talking
Right.
because it's knit. I have to pay there's just enough for me to pay a little bit of attention to. It's not completely straight, just back and forth. It's not 100% entirely mindless. But if it's 100% entirely mindless, that's hard.
Right. Yeah, I need just that like little
Just a
bit of
tiny bit.
distraction,
Just
right?
a tiny bit.
Yeah, I usually like play games on my phone or something, and
Yeah.
I'll be listening to a conversation. Most people think I'm not like into it, but it's like I just need something
Like
that occupies.
this
Yeah.
is this is a fidget toy I have that son my son 3D printed for me.
Oh, nice.
This is cool.
Yeah.
So this has just enough so that it's not I need it kind of quiet, but I need it a little bit it has texture for my hand. It I have to it doesn't just it's not just a a
Right.
spinner
It's just
thing.
the
It has
motion.
something more than that to it.
Right, and you kind of
Um
build as you go, so you get that progress with it too.
yeah.
That I find that's like really rewarding for my mind is if I can see a progression of it, and it doesn't feel like I'm just doing something that's repetitive.
hmm
You know what I mean? So like, I would love to actually get into something like that where I can just keep my hands busy
I'll teach you how to
the
knit.
whole time.
I'll
Yeah,
teach you how to knit, Spencer.
I'm down. I also want to learn how to do the string.
To spin? Oh, that's fun.
that's,
That's cool. Because if you do it with a spindle, you can do it from anywhere. You
yeah.
can you can carry it around with you. It's really cool. Um, so yeah, it's interesting. I actually kind of need to have something that engages my brain enough it's this kind of goes into the masking conversation too, because I have to do something so I don't always want to talk, always try to talk. I always want to talk, but so I don't always try to talk.
Right. Now, would you say like you had the hyperactive side of ADHD, or would you say like you were able to kind of cover that up?
I had when they okay, so the gal that tested me, I tested off the charts in both. I am combined.
Same. That's what I was diagnosed with as well.
So, I mean, she says that she had never seen anything. When I did my thing, when I did my kind of final thing with her after she'd done the tests and things like that, and I was kind of doing my wrap up where she was going to tell me all the results and what meetings and stuff. I said I'm nervous for some reason. She said, why? And I don't know. And she said, well, what would it mean if you aren't? What would it mean if you were? And I went, I don't know. I'm just nervous. Just tell me the answer, okay?
Right.
Because
right.
I'm going nuts in my brain figuring out
all
that. Just tell me the answer. And she said, well, I'll tell you this. At this point, you would have to work really, really hard to convince me you did not have it.
Oh, at least you got some kind of heads up. When I took my test, I came home and I told my wife, I was like, I really think I have ADHD, but I'm also really good at taking tests.
I had to submit all the tests.
Right.
I submitted it, and then there was this long period. This was just the final thing where
okay.
I still had the window of misery of waiting to know what they were.
Oh, right. Yeah, I was like, I kept thinking like, I probably just passed this test, right? Like I did really good on the test, which means like I don't, like it doesn't show that I have ADHD.
I might have masked right through it, right? Because I did all the right answers instead of what was happening. Because I'm not supposed to admit that I'm completely disorganized and forget my phone 15 places 10 times a day.
Right. Yeah, and it's like when I finally got that diagnosis, it was like, oh, okay, like I felt validated, but then it was just like this wave of like, this has been happening your entire life, right? So now you have to
grief, not being seen.
You have to dig through everything and look at everything in a new light. And I think it's like helpful, very helpful, but it sucks to do, right? Like awfully painful.
Mm-hmm.
So who was the first person that you told after your diagnosis?
I think it was probably my partner and then TikTok. Might have been my son.
Right. I think it's so interesting. I told my wife was the first one too, but like as soon as I got diagnosed, I felt like I was able to post on TikTok, which is ridiculous, right? Like I'm a firm believer in self-diagnosis, but like in my brain,
TikTok diagnosed me.
Right. Oh, me too. Yeah, but I waited to post until like I had the paperwork in hand.
I didn't.
See, like I wish I didn't.
I didn't.
It was so stupid to wait.
Because I went through and I was really pretty sure I did. I was really pretty sure I had it. But I felt so insecure about it because I'm like, oh yeah, one other thing. And I'm just like, I just want the damn answer.
Right.
Okay, I just want to know. And now I know that that's what it is, that that's what's going on. It has a name. I can understand it. I can deal with it. I can interact with it. I can... Anyway.
So having like the vocabulary for it, right, is so empowering, right? Because before I would be like, yeah, my day's been good, bad, like, oh, I just didn't get this done on my list, that sucks, like, and I would just kind of bumble through the day, and just having words for what's actually going on in my life has been a game changer for me. One, because I'm able to identify it, hopefully
Yeah.
make some changes, like if I need to. But two, just like having a better grasp on my own functionality has been
Yeah.
amazing for me. Like knowing my
And I,
weaknesses has helped me more than anything else, right?
yeah. And I was slash am something I'm working on still. Partially because of a lot of things. So mean to myself.
Yep.
So mean. I
Oh,
I have boo on my, am I not holding it in the right place to see it?
oh, you just froze for a second. There we go. Oh,
Oh,
cute.
okay. I have boo on my water thing to remind me to talk to myself like I talk to boo.
Oh,
And that came from Sheila, ADHD coach Sheila,
who's
a tip
awesome.
she gave me in a class that I took. And ADHD coaching has helped. I've taken some of her classes, Words with ADHD Druids, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Have been really, really helpful in figuring out and unpicking it, going through it with somebody who understands
Right.
what gets in the way has been incredibly helpful.
Oh yeah, my
Really, really
last show I
helpful.
just had ADHD coach Ron on, and
Uh-huh.
he was like throwing stuff out there, just totally blowing me away with all the information. Like it is very very helpful to even just talk to those people. I agree
Mm-hmm.
totally, and the people you listed are like some of my favorite people out there, right? Like
Oh,
they're
they're
just
great.
amazing, right? Sheila,
They're great.
Michael, Ron, like
And
I love them
Alex,
all. Yeah.
um, um, what's his handle? It's a Saurus one, but I can't ever remember.
Aliphosaurus.
Alexis, yeah, anyway, he's an Asaurus one. He's really wonderful. Um, and the thing is it's real because I know they struggle with this stuff too.
Right.
So just like I come on to TikTok and I say, okay, it's a struggle day. I'm going to be kind to myself. But nobody sees what that struggle looks like when I'm not on camera. It was only 30 seconds or 15 seconds where I pulled it together enough just to give that message of you're not alone.
Right. Right.
Okay. You don't schedule struggle. You're not alone. It's okay. You don't have to just power through. I don't know how to not power through quite yet sometimes, but you don't have to.
Right.
And and having those reminders, that's why I did my TikTok, to have some place that I didn't have to put on a mask. When you talk about masking, it's everywhere all the time. When I first started coloring my hair, it was huge because that to be appropriate, to be out there, and you see me the headbands that I wear and all that kind of stuff, and just being over the top is it's practice letting myself be who I am, that out there, expressive, wow, person for little bits at a time.
Right. That's a great
Permission
way
to
to
be
put that.
brave
I've never
in
thought about
small
it that
chunks.
way, but I think I do the same thing, right? Like I get to be just whoever I am, right? Like and a lot of that is discovering uh, who I am by making these videos, right? Like that's a huge part of it. I totally agree. I think it's helped me really be able to like identify the aspects of myself that I think are me, and not because somebody put those expectations on me or because I'm supposed to act a certain way. Like this is just who I am for 60 seconds, 15 seconds, whatever it is. I really like the way you put that. That's definitely giving me something to reflect on. Like, seriously, Jen, that
Yeah.
is really deep.
And going into the mask and how deep it is, right now, I am in a way masking because there's a part of me that has at least 6 different times wanted to just spontaneously ask you this question and go, nope, you need to ask it later because we're in this moment. So I had to stay with this moment, which is genuine and real. I mean, the moment that we were
Right.
in, but even as I was in the middle of that moment, there's this little part of my brain that was like, oh yeah, I want to ask Spencer because I've got like 3 different bottles, 3 different things of water over here. And I wanted to ask him, does water taste different to him when it comes out of a, this is the exact same water in all these containers. It tastes different to me when it's out of different containers or a different drinking method. Like if I drink it out of straw, it tastes different or feels different than if I just squirt it, than if I, open it up
Right.
and pour it in.
I would
So
say I don't think it tastes different, but the feels different part of that, absolutely, right? Like it's just like a
has
different
a different mouth feel.
mouthfeel. Yeah, totally. Yeah,
And so you have different, so you
I
you
prefer
drink out of different
straws. Yeah,
containers.
more than like just the glasses themselves. Like and
Mm-hmm.
then like squirt bottles, water bottles. Yeah, all of them are different.
Oh, and mine always have to have lids. I'm going to show you these. I found these because of my spatial awareness and everything.
Oh, nice.
It just that little tiny bit. They can sit sideways. They can fall over sideways, and they don't leak.
I'm like my problem with
These were
water
total
bottles.
game changer
My
for
problem
me.
with water bottles is I'm a collector, right? So like I'll come down here to
Mm-hmm.
work and like I'll just stack up like 5, 10, however
Mm-hmm.
many I have upstairs before I clean everything out and haul it all back upstairs.
I've reused this one like 5 times because it's a great bottle, and I love the thing, and
I hear you. I'm very particular about certain things in my kitchen, like the same way, like some cups, some glasses, like I can use them fine, right?
yeah,
But there's very specific purposes. Like if I'm getting juice, I'm gonna use a glass cup, right?
yeah,
And a
glass for
short
sure.
glass one. But if I'm getting water, like I'll just put in like a plastic cup, like no big deal. Like it's so funny the way I'm judicial about like what goes in what dish or like I did a video where I duetted Swan and he's talking about like the silverware he
Oh
prefers,
yeah,
right? Like
that's yeah.
and it's along those
There's
same
there's
lines like
forks and there's spoon. Okay, so right, hang on. I got my yogurt and berries over here. My frozen yogurt and berries. It's kind of my food. Okay, this is the correct size spoon to eat things with. This one.
right. Yeah, you
Yeah,
got
I have a really big goddamn mouth. This is the correct size spoon. If you give me this little teeny spoon, I'm like,
Right. I like the little spoons just for ice cream because I like to eat it just a little bit at a time. But that's it. And then like any kind of utensils or anything, like I have my favorites, right? Like it just cracks me up. Like I'm so picky, and it's only in the kitchen, right? Like anywhere else, like in my house, like I don't think about that stuff at all. Like you know,
the pen
different
you use or
towel,
whatever
right?
doesn't
Yeah,
bother
like
you, or
bath
yeah.
towels versus like guest towels, and like none of that matters to me. It's like my kitchen's the only place in my house where I'm actually organized. And it's because like I grew up like teaching myself how to cook, and then like my parents' house like not very organized in the kitchen, like just everything shoved in a drawer, pots and
Uh-huh.
pans just kind of stacked in plate, like you couldn't find anything. And so when I got my place, I was like, I want the kitchen to be organized. So it's the one place in my house where there's a spot for everything. Now, do I keep it clean? No, I don't, and I let dishes pile up and stuff. But it's the only place in my house that everywhere has a place and a spot
Put
for it
something
to
away.
go.
I'm pretty close to that. And I went off like we had 3 branches come out of that in my brain, just out of what you were saying, because I was doing it. Okay, so let's see if I can keep track of all of them, because they were all really good. So the first one is, we were talking about going deep. And the masking part just kind of pervades all of this. So I think instead of just specific about that, we'll just talk about how masking relates in this instance, right? And so we do these deep dives, and we do them because we're trying to figure out how it works. So we want to be with somebody, and like as you're doing this, I'm like, do I do that? Why do I do that? What reason do we do that? So I'm sitting here going, yeah, I wonder if the reason that I have particular things is because I never got a choice of what I do as a kid.
Right.
I was always just handed, you will use this, whether I liked it or not. That's what I got. So I may have developed an affinity or a stronger thing because I never had a choice.
Right. Yeah.
Really. And because I never got to have a favorite or mine, I do kind of have this is mine. This is my glass that I use. Right?
Okay, right.
This one, I have labeled it, right? This is mine. And some of these new, because they're sitting here, some of these new Hello Succulent stickers are going to go on there. Have you seen her stuff? It's gorgeous.
Who's that?
Okay. Hello Succulent. She does art. So these are just some of her stickers, but these come from her art. She does paintings where she does things with succulents, and she does gold leaf. Let me use the matte one. Where she does gold leaf with them. Where, when she's doing her painting, she'll put gold leaf on it.
Oh, cool.
And then brush it off, and so it just highlights these different spots. Her work is so gorgeous. And I'm not sure if that's going on there or if some of the stuff from Crazy, it's called Manifesting. Look it up. Right? Because that's just the right color too to go on here.
Right.
See, and it seems like it's called Manifesting. Look it up.
I would just grab that coffee mug and just be like, yeah, this is what I'm using today. I'm very communal in my house.
Yeah. And this one, that Keep It Up Cutie, and today is actually going to be a no for me. So if we could sort that out, if we're actually a no, get that handled, please. Anyway, so I was going the 3 different the 3 different things, and why do I do this and what do I do? So we want to be able to dig down deep and pull it apart, and people want to talk about the weather.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
How was your weekend?
So I cannot remember a single thing I did over the weekend.
Right. Oh, especially when you put me on the spot, right? I have to
sit down and do work,
question,
right?
Like, hey, I just saw you.
But if you said,
let me pepper you with questions.
But if you said, oh, my Saturday was really tiring, I had this thing, I would go, oh, yeah, that's right. I was down and I did a whole bunch of work on my trailer. Let me tell you about that. And let me tell you about the whole thing and my whole adventure. And I'll tell you the whole story, right?
Right.
As soon as I get anchored into a story, I want to tell you the whole story. I don't want to just tell you, oh, yeah, I fed the chickens.
Now, do you do the thing where you not only relay a story, you have to give like your own personal opinion as you tell the story as well? Like, I think that's a lot of like my oversharing comes from me just trying to relate something to somebody, just like tell them a story.
And I need to
help them connect myself into it to make it make sense.
They need to know why it's important, why it had, and I want them to
Yes.
understand this, it matters that I'm telling you this for a reason. There's something there. I want you to get connected to the context and everything. And it's a struggle sometimes. One of my sons, I live with engineers. Everybody's an engineer in math. And oh my God, they love mathgasms are like all the time. And I just am like, there's a certain point at which I have to say, I get it. I have learned to say, I get that this really super matters to you and you're super enthusiastic about it and you love it. Right now, because of everything that's going on and everything I'm having to keep track of, my care factor right now is 0. If you just need to talk about it and you need to have somebody who kind of sort of basically track it, fine, go for it. If you need me to understand this and be there and relate to you in this, I am not the one and now is not the day.
Right. Right.
So I've learned to be able to communicate that part. Whereas before I'm just like, oh God, it's just so much. It's just so much. And it was just one other noise stream. Because, surprise, surprise, kids like me, right?
Right. I think, so I want to ask you, so being late diagnosed, because I really like talking about the late diagnosis thing. What do you think was the most shocking kind of revelation to you?
That I'm not broken.
That's beautiful, Jen. Oh, I love that.
That I'm not broken.
I would say that's mine too, right? Like,
and I don't have to keep trying to fix myself. I get to stop trying to fit me and fix me into everything else. I get to explore and figure out ways to make my life work for me with how I work. There's nothing wrong with my brain. It just works in this way.
right.
And so the most effective way to work with my brain is not to try to bully it.
Exactly. Right. And you become more cooperative with yourself, right? Like, that's the way I think about it is,
Yep.
like, I understand my strengths and weaknesses. Like, I don't need to beat myself down for not being able to do certain things because I have an explanation as to why that's happening. And so now I can be proactive in, 1, avoiding those situations, but 2, like, identifying them and correcting them instead of just wondering why these things keep happening.
And it's not shameful anymore.
Right. Oh, shame plays such a huge role in all of it, especially undiagnosed. You just internalize
I don't
everything.
have to be ashamed of myself and how I am.
Absolutely. I mean, that gets down to the heart of it, right? I feel like it's taken me about a year to get to this point of, 1, there's grief that we talked about, right? As soon as I was diagnosed, I felt that wave of loss and what if and what could have been. But then I really got interested in learning how my brain worked and the processes behind it and, like, why things were happening the way that they were happening. And then, which I got really comfortable in, and I think after that, I started to ask myself, okay, well, now you know these things are happening, but you're not really doing anything about it, right? And so I took that step from an understanding to actually putting things in practice, whether it be things I learned from TikTok or things just in my own mind that might help, or
that you poked at enough to figure out, or that you talked with somebody and you went, oh, now that I can talk about it and I have names for this.
Right.
And I stopped trying to use goddamn planners.
Right. And so, like, I feel now like I'm finally in a position where I really like the way my brain works. And it's not ideal for every situation, and it's never going to be. Nobody's brain is ideal for every situation, right? But I understand that, like, I work really well under pressure. I'm prone to like,
Mm-hmm.
slack off, but I do more work in 10 hours than a lot of people do in 20 hours, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and so I've given myself a little bit of room and grace to
I'm
take
more
some time so
productive
I don't feel like
when
I
I'm
have to
ill.
constantly.
I'm more productive when I'm ill than most people are on a not most. I'm not going to say most. Than a lot of people are on a regular day.
Right.
Now, that can be a problem
Right.
because it was never okay to rest.
That's exactly it, right? And you always feel guilty for being off of your feet, for like you always feel this constant pressure, and a lot of it's that performative pressure, right?
There's a little part of me that feels guilty doing this right now.
Me too, actually. Like my son's upstairs, and I always feel a little bit of guilt, especially being like online, uh,
Hmm.
because I share a lot online, and then my wife's like, "How was your day?" And I can't remember how my day was, or like all the
It was
details
good.
of
It
my, yeah. So it's
was
good,
okay.
right? And she's like, "Well, you're sharing a lot online, but you're not sharing a lot with me." And it's like, well, it's just top of mind stuff. Like, I'm sorry, I'm
You
bad
need to
at
get
like
into a
recapping.
conversation with me about something,
Right,
and
exactly.
I will
Trigger.
share like crazy with you.
Right. It's
Then there's the challenge of, but not everybody wants to share that way. And that gets into why I'm that's tricky. This isn't the best segue, but
it's all
some other
right.
things about me. No, 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 it's not you. I was trying to use it as a segue. Um, we have so much going on and we are so intense on so many different things. It's not possible, right, or fair to ask one person to meet all those needs, in my experience
Sure.
and in my opinion. So I am polyamorous, which is people freak out about and misunderstand a whole lot.
Oh, I'm sure,
It
right?
took a super, super long time for me to identify it because I'm pansexual. I do this slash because both are true in unique ways. I mean, both of those descriptions I resonate with,
Mm-hmm.
and um, I can't seem to just pick one. One isn't enough. So
Sure.
anyway, um, because it's the person that's attractive to me.
Okay. Yeah.
And I have physical attraction to both people. I think that's where I put the bi in there. But the pansexual, for me to have a connection, I need a connection. For me to have anyway,
Right.
there needs
It's
to be
not just a
connection there.
physical.
And there's a whole bunch of other things you could go in and to explore, and that's not exactly what we're here for. But
Right.
it's relevant in that we sometimes don't understand our own selves because we're too busy trying to fit into a mold. So it's not okay to be who we are. So we don't even understand ourselves. And I thought for almost all my life that the reason that I was just like singularly blessed to be okay with polygamy, because polygamy is doctrine in the Mormon church. I don't care what they say. It is doctrine. They practice it. It's what they believe is in the eternities is polygamy. Um, and their version of polygamy, which is specifically men oriented with multiple, um, not women.
Right.
And it's not any of those things. It's it's very hetero in its orientation. even though it multiplies.
Right.
So anyway, I am polyamorous. And the more I have done a deep dive into relationship anarchy, that resonates with me too. Because I don't have a specific way a relationship needed to go. That was among the first things that I deconstructed when I left the church.
Right.
Was relationships. Because I needed to know what my rules were going to be for future relationships. When is it okay for sex to enter into that relationship or conversation or communication? How do I talk about it? What are my rules? What are my things? Because I'm abandoning these, and I only had these because
Right.
I was part of this organization, and this organization said it had to be that way.
Right. You
So I
had a
started saying,
whole
do I
system and
really feel
structure
that
put in
way?
place
Right?
on you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And I realized that I don't. I love deeply. And the part that was hardest for owning that was actually other people's reaction to it.
Interesting.
Because I didn't want to make anybody scared of me. And there were lots of people who, when I shared, I've heard, well, that's just greedy, or why can't you just pick one? And a whole bunch of things, because I am, all about the things.
Sure.
And it's remarkably ungreedy for me in my experience, because I'm not asking anything of anyone that they're not okay giving, that they're not there to give. And I'm not taking everything from one person. And
That's
I'm not
interesting.
expecting everything from one person. And I have some very, very deep platonic relationships that I consider those people to be part of my, to use a polyamorous term, a polycule, right? The people that are connected with me. And those are absolutely deep, intimate relationships.
Right.
And I don't have to have a sexual component for it to be a deep, intimate relationship.
Sure.
If that's what the two of us decide, that's what we would negotiate and talk about. It doesn't have to be there. It doesn't have to not be there. I let the relationship be what it's going to be.
Now,
And I'm okay with short-term relationships even, right? I'm okay that some people just come into my life for a little bit of time, we deep, and then we move, and it was a beautiful, wonderful experience in my life.
Right.
So I don't have rules about it.
Right.
Well, I mean, I have rules,
Sure.
but I don't dictate a direction.
Right. That makes sense. So,
Okay.
you said something that I thought was very interesting, and it had to do with taking more than people give, or people are offering
Taking more than, yeah. Uh-huh.
and I think that's a very neurodivergent thing, is not wanting to be bothersome or take too much of anybody's time, energy, effort. We don't want to be burdensome, right?
Yes,
do you think that being polyamorous kind of relieves some of that RSD, because you're not putting the whole relationship? Okay.
No, it doesn't, because I have it with all of my relationships. Because is this person still okay? I mean, I called it. I was wondering if we were going to end up talking about this. I told you how I had names for stuff before I knew I was ADHD, right?
Mm.
Okay, so there's a Sesame Street skit from. Okay, I'm a sesame seed. That's what they call the people that have been around, like from the beginning of Sesame Street, right? So, and I grew up with Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers and all of that. And Electric Company. Most people don't remember Electric Company.
Yeah.
And Zoom. Zoom was great. Um, and so there was this skit, and Ernie goes over to Herbert Birdsfoot's house to borrow a vacuum cleaner. And you can Google this and you can find it on YouTube. You can find this skit. And Ernie goes over to Herbert Birdsfoot's house to borrow a vacuum cleaner. He knocks on the door. And he hears Herbert Birdsfoot in the shower. And he goes through this whole scenario out loud. It's in his head, but he says it out loud, right?
Uh-huh.
And he says, gosh, he's going to be upset with me. He's going to get out. He's going to get cold. He's wet. He's going to get a cold. Then he's going to be mad at me. And he's going to think I'm not going to return his vacuum cleaner. And he's going to be telling people that I'm a terrible person because I'm not going to return his vacuum. Gosh, I had a whole lot of friends before Herbert Birdsfoot came around, right? I mean, he goes all the way through, and just like this little teeny tiny 30-second skit, right?
Right.
I used to have a lot of friends before that rotten old Herbert Birdsfoot, right? So Herbert Birdsfoot just opens the door, is like, "Oh, hi, Ernie." And Ernie hollers at him, "Well, you can just keep your dumb old vacuum cleaner anyway." And turns around and storms off, right? And that's the whole skit. And they're showing this to little kids. I immediately I have no idea why they did that skit, what the decision making in, but I'm so grateful for it, because I was like, yes, I have to be careful that I don't write this other person's side of the story.
Right.
I learned that from Sesame Street when I was really young.
Lesson.
I have to be careful not to write the other. Oh, I still did it.
Oh, yeah.
But I called it Herbert Birdsfoot syndrome. And so I could recognize it when, I mean, it's weird. It sounds better to call it Herbert Birdsfoot syndrome, but nobody ever knew what it was. And I always had to explain it and, all that kind of stuff. But that's RSD.
Right.
And that's making up the other person's story. And that gets into a lot of Brene Brown's work, where we have to be careful. We're not just running our own stories and our own scripts of these other people, but we check in about what's going on.
Right.
And so if something happens or I start seeing you distracted, I don't decide you don't want to have the conversation anymore. I say, "Hey, Spencer, is everything okay?" And you go, "Oh yeah, it was a notification popped up over here." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right, I'm good." It's the two skits that Brave Dave and Mama Cusses that they've done lately, where they go over to each other's house with the kids, and they say, if ADHD people were completely honest and transparent when doing play dates.
I haven't seen the
it's
skit.
Brilliant. Oh my word, they're brilliant. I'll find them and share them with you, because they are brilliant. They are absolutely brilliant. And it's like, yeah, I had totally forgotten about this until a half an hour ago when my kids said that we're going over there. Yeah, and I'm glad you think it's clean in here. This is like the first time I've seen my floor in like 3 weeks. So I mean, it's just all of these different.
I'll have to check it out, because I complain about play dates all the time.
Pause. So now I'm going to tell you about this thing, because I don't want there to be any lulls in the conversation. So I'm going to awkwardly talk about this.
Right. Right. Oh yeah, that's the funnest part, right? Especially if you have somebody come to your place, like the expectations you put on yourself as a host, right, are kind of compounded, I think, when you have ADHD. Like, I know when I have people, at the same time,
I want people to come.
Run around. Yeah.
I want people to come and hang out. I want to be there, and I want that part of my brain that as soon as they arrive, I'm sitting here judging myself and going, okay, but did I do this? Do they like it?
Right.
Oh, I didn't put that away. I didn't put this away.
Yeah, exactly. I love that you said, like, I want the people around, because for me, like, I want like people to come to my house and stuff, but me not have to invite them or like make it like anything kind of special, like an event or anything like that. Like I would love
Oh,
people just to
yeah.
stop by like it used to be back
Yeah.
in the day. Because
Uh-huh.
if I know somebody's coming, like I put in so much effort to get everything
That you're
clean and
exhausted by
neat
the
and
time they're
right,
there. So
exactly. And
this
then
is
I'm
what
just
I used to
relieved by the
say.
time they leave, right?
So I've talked about this on TikTok. My mom, I describe her as a human doing, that she just did and did and did and did and did. And she would come to my house, and all of these different ways I tried to explain myself. I tried to understand myself and all this kind of thing. And for a while, there was a thing going around. I mean, this is 40 years ago, was going around about maybe between 30 and 40 years ago, of naturally clean people and naturally, born messy and born organized, right?
Mm.
And I think it was kind of trying to explain neurodivergence and dealing with neurodivergence and this kind of thing, because there are people that just naturally will just kind of stay organized, and that's what they need. And my mom needed that to have control in her life, and a whole bunch of reasons that have validity in and of themselves, but the effect it had on you was hard. So I'd tell my mom, look, Mom, your dishes talk to you, and mine talk to me, and they say the exact same thing, but they say it so differently. Your dishes say to you, no matter where you go, no matter what you do, I will be here waiting for you. Right? They haunt her.
Right.
And mine go, no, don't. No matter where you go, whatever you're doing, no matter what you're doing, I'm here. I'm waiting for you. Right? That's what mine tell me.
I love that, Jen.
The only time
That's
I get
great.
frustrated with my dishes, or that it really bothers me, is when I can't do anything else in the kitchen because I have to clean first.
Right.
That's when it bugs me. That's when I get stuck.
When it prevents the dopamine from happening. Right.
Oh, hey, I want to make toast. Oh, there's like 3 tons of dishes in front, and I can't find a butter knife, or whatever it is.
Right.
Whatever the scenario is, right? So I love dopamine. I love domestic blisters. Take on that all of those things are morally neutral.
Yep.
And you figure out ways to work it for you, and the dish cycle, all of those things are beautiful, beautiful things. So back to when I was trying to figure it out with this born organized and born messy. So I thought that's just kind of how I was, and I tried to work with it and tried these different systems to try to still, and the thing is that still trying to there wasn't ever an acknowledgement of, like domestic blisters is doing, it still wasn't morally neutral. It was here's what you have to do to match this, that these people can just kind of do automatically.
Mm-hmm.
Here's some tools to just make it so that you match that. And finally, at one point, I don't remember if I heard it first or if I made it up, but my mother would come over to my house and she would be uncomfortable, and she would like clean. She would like need to clean. She wouldn't just sit down and visit. She would be uncomfortable in my space.
Right.
So this is what I said. If you want to see me, stop by any time. If you want to see my house, call first.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I like the way you phrase things, especially like them being uncomfortable in your space, right? Like for me, it's always been trying to appease somebody else, right? Like in my zone, my space, my area, whatever. And I love the fact that like you've taken ownership of it and the way you think about it, because it's not the way I think about like even my own space, right? Like, and I really want to adopt the way you're thinking about it, because I think it's super healthy.
Okay,
like,
tell me what you're. Okay, so this is cool because you're like telling me I really love the way you think about it, and I'm sitting here going, okay, how do I think about it? I'm not even sure. I know how I think about it. Spencer, will you please describe to me how I think about it?
No,
because
no, just
do it, right? I don't
right.
know what I'm doing right now.
No,
I
like
would like to know.
the idea that just your own personal space, right? Like for me, I don't really think about like my own space, any kind of spatial boundaries or anything like that.
Oh, that you can have it
But
how it works for you.
right. But when somebody
Okay.
comes over and stuff, like
Oh
I
yeah.
find I'm more uncomfortable than anything because I'm just trying to make sure they're comfortable and it's their this is
Yeah.
their space to enjoy, right? And I love the
The
stance that you
Converse.
took where it's like, no, this is my space, and if you
Yeah.
don't like it, like go away.
Yeah. 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 See, the Converse I actually will do too. I will reassure people because I know what I go through, and I'll say, "Oh, I'm here to see you. If I was here to see your house, I would have called first."
Right. I always try
Right?
to
So that
yeah,
can
do
help
this
them,
that
but I
too,
do it
like
in that
settle
with
them
that
down.
language
The,
because if I say, "Oh, it's fine. It doesn't matter that it's messy." Those are all things we say while we're still judging,
right.
right? But if I communicate directly, and this goes back to that direct communication and that need for absolute directness and candor, right?
Right.
I've watched Discovery and that one Star Trek Discovery and that one race that does absolute candor. I am like, that resonates with me, right? It feels rude, it seems off, but wow,
Right.
that's perfect.
I prefer the
Complete candor. And so so that's why I try to be very direct and I say, I'm here to see you so that they're clear, they're my priority.
right. I love the
And
way
then
you
I
think about the
add,
way
if
that you're
I
presenting
would
it. Like,
have wanted to see your house, I'm acknowledging that you want your house in a different place than it is. And if I wanted you to show off your house, I would have called and given you the opportunity to get that ready to show it off to me. You don't need to be showing it off.
right.
So it really solidly communicates I am in a space of non-judgment here.
So we talked about never split the difference, right?
Yes.
And that book for anybody out there who's watching, like you should read this book. It's about negotiating.
Like
But
I can't
Jen and
even
I
tell you how many thumbs up.
had conversations about this book before, and one of the things that blew me away when I read it, and I first read it when I was undiagnosed, was the fact that he was present not just for the conversation, but there was like this outside like meta presence where he's constantly analyzing the person,
Yeah.
their comfort level, their their body movements, everything about the conversation, not just the words that are being
Oh, we should
transmitted.
clarify he's a hostage negotiator,
Right. And
right?
so
He's negotiating in hostage
right.
situations.
And so the thing that really stood out in the book, and he tells a lot of amazing stories, but for me was just his presence within any kind of situation, to be cognizant of not just the action in front of him, which I do like all the time, but to be aware of all of his surroundings, make mental notes and stuff, and be able to like refer to those, because I am not capable of that, and it's something I'm struggling with so much. And that's why I think I keep saying that I love your approach so much, is because you are able to step outside of conversation, step outside of the situation that you're in, and look at it through that meta level, if
Right.
that makes sense.
That
And
was
that's
very
I
helpful
really
for me to
like the
do
way you
that.
do that.
Brene Brown has been very helpful for me to do that. And a book called Thinking in Bets by Annie Duke has been very,
I
very
haven't.
helpful for
You'll
me
have
to
to
do
send
that.
me the link on that.
Oh, I did send you the link to that.
Okay.
I did. I texted it to you because here's what it is. We have evolved to just take in the first thing and make decisions about it. It was more dangerous for us to have a false negative than it was for us to have a false positive on as we evolved, right?
Right.
I mean, it seems like we've been doing this culture thing and this city thing for a really long time. But when you put that in comparison to how long we were in living near the wild animals that will eat you for
Right.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right?
Right.
All of that kind of thing. We had so much more time to process and do that way of thinking and dealing with things than we have doing this way of dealing and thinking with things.
Sure.
So it's helpful for me to put that into perspective so that I blame my brain less. I know I just kind of need to train it more, right?
Right.
So I know I'm, as a default, I'm just going to take this in. That's going to be my assumption. The first thought I have, the first piece of information I get about something, the first anything is going to be what I'm going to start operating with.
Right.
So I have built in, and I think that's one of the things that some places go into an echo chamber, and I think we can sound like that, but I think what we're doing is trying to get deeper and deeper, peel more stuff off the onion,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
We want to figure out where things are really at. And we're like, wait, we really haven't gotten to it. So we need to circle back and we need to do this again because still stuff isn't working. So we need to figure out how it works. And Brene Brown really got me into that because of the way she approaches her research. She, if there's an outlier, then the theory's wrong. You have to have the theory has to work for everything that's there.
Right. Right. Yeah, it can't
The
be.
theory has
wrong.
to explain everything,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there was someplace really important I was going with this. Oh, so we check our assumptions, and that's one of the things that he always said, okay, I've got this piece of information. Now, what assumptions am I making about this? And thinking in bets deals with that too, because she says she says, this is one of the fastest ways. This is such a cool tip. This is one of the fastest ways to check whether you're making assumptions about something. And it's to say, would I bet on this? How much would I bet? And it can be really direct. It can be a little too direct to just do it. But the principle is, so you're like asserting this thing, that this is true. This is true. This is whatever it is. Like you're going to bet that so-and-so, you're going to say, well, so-and-so is going to take this action, right? This is the path that we should take. And you're being very firm, very emphatic about it, because as ADHDers, we have done all the research. We have done all these things. Don't want to have to do it again. Just take our answer, please. Want to bet?
I like that. That's
all of a sudden you start going,
you get uncertainty, right? Like I felt that.
How sure am I?
Right.
Would I place a bet on the outcome of this?
That's so interesting. I love
when there's no stakes are involved. It's really easy for us to get super committed and go, nope, this is the way. I'm here and there. But as soon as an outcome is involved,
Jen, I'm gonna have to
go check.
My son's
Okay,
upstairs. I'll be right back.
So I'll keep talking to everybody else though. So as soon as an outcome is involved, you start going, oh well, maybe, and that's where we start hedging our bets, or maybe going, I don't know if I want to do. I don't know if I want to really go all in on this one. She's a poker player, professional poker player. And it's really interesting how she's taken her experience as a professional poker player and taken a lot of those things. It's kind of like how what I've learned in poker can improve so many things about our lives. She really challenges the assumption that we need to be 100% sure about something to be trusted. And I'm going to wait for Spencer to get back for the rest of this. So I wish I could see the Twitch stream, because maybe I could answer some questions. I don't know if I can do this other. Anyway, so yeah. And if you, this is the thing about me, is I love doing deep dives. I love talking about stuff. I love getting really into the meat of it. So anybody who wants to dig into the meat of it, Okay, so now you're back.
Sorry.
You're good.
Everything's
So
okay.
I was just kind of inviting people to, if they want to come in and do the meat of it, that's it. So I had basically been telling them that she takes what she learned in her professional poker career and says how I can apply this to life to improve life, right? And one of the things, and I started talking about it and then I stopped until you got back, was one of the really big things she talks about is she first challenges that, that want to bet. And then she challenges this assumption, this belief that we have to be 100% firm and confident to be trusted.
I love that.
And for people to adopt our ideas, right? And so I'm trying to get right out of my vocabulary, so that's why
it
paused me. But that's why it broke me there for a second. So anyway, so I'm trying to substitute with, does that make sense? So if I come to you, okay, I'll do it this way. All right, so Spencer, we've got a plan to do some project, right? And I talk to you and I've done my own research on it and I come back to you and we kind of have a plan to do a project, right? So let's kind of be thinking about that even if we don't talk about the details. And I come to you and I say, yeah, we're on this side of the equation. We're about 70, 80% sure that's the direction we want to go. Doesn't that communicate to you so much more information about that project and about what my intentions are and where things are at? So you're clear, so you will know, oh, so it's got to be the right thing for them to make up that difference.
Right. Yeah, it gives
it's got to be the exactly right thing. Yeah.
Definitely.
And or if I'm in the middle and we're approaching different plans forward for our product launch, and I say, based on the research that I've done and things, I am 80% sure this is going to be what's going to grow our business. And somebody else is like, oh no, this is the way it's going to be. This is the way it's going to be. And there's another person saying, well, this is the way it's going to go. And I'm absolutely sure that this way is going to do it.
Right.
You don't want to go their way. And you want to talk to me more about that 20%.
Right. Because that uncertain,
you say, so what's in that 20%?
It's more forgiving.
You want to find out if that's an unknown, if that you could end up knowing, so is it at this point we're at 80%? What could make that higher? What more knowns should we figure out? And it gives you a direction to go then.
Right. Definitely. I think that's super interesting.
Totally cool, huh?
See, that's what I mean. Like I'm not present enough. Like even in like this conversation that we're having, like I'm not doing any kind of like mental background work as we're talking, right? Like I'm not thinking like, Jen's like, I like even trying to fill it in. Like I don't even know what to be paying attention to, right? Like I don't know what to prioritize, right? So I feel like I just like open my brain up and just be like, all right, I'm just gonna take in what I can,
gotcha,
right? And try to absorb everything. Instead of like even having a plan or direction. That's why
you have
I
the
love
benefit
this
of that
show
because
so much,
you're recording it.
Right.
So you can just kind of be passive in the moment, and then you have the benefit of being able to deconstruct it later.
Well, that's assuming I can get past my RSD and actually watch myself on camera.
Right. Do you want to hear a cool story?
Sure.
Okay, so I did a video podcast. And this helped me get past my RSD. I might have shared this with you. I saw myself on camera, and I had to edit it. I was the editor for it. I had to do all the editing and everything.
It's a great story.
And I was like, I hated doing it. Oh, I hated myself. I hated it. I heard every single little tick in my voice that I would edit, my verbal tics that I would do, because I say so all the time. And that's when I still do. So, you know,
That's a pretty
all of
common
those.
one, yeah.
That's pretty common. I use it instead of
Which, like, is incredibly frowned upon, right? Like,
Uh-huh.
apparently,
But I
like,
don't
I didn't
quite
get
know
the memo.
why. But
Right.
anyway, but it's so frowned upon that I actually have, it's difficult for me to sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes hear it.
I hear it when I start
this
videos.
script.
So, like, and that's like my intro to
Now,
like
so
half
is
of my
fine.
videos.
So is different. It's the I think it's, and it doesn't bother me with everyday speakers and things. It's people who put themselves out as professional speakers. God, I hate that. I hate that judgmental element in my head that won't let me just listen to their speech that says, oh, you shouldn't be doing and if you're going to put yourself out as a professional, you should fix that. You should be working harder on that to get that. God, that's an annoying voice. And it's wrong. Right? Why does somebody have to be? It's like, no, you can't be just you. You can't just present your message. You have to do it in this sculpted, tailored way, or it doesn't matter.
Right.
Or it won't be listened to.
The information becomes less important than the delivery
and we
of it.
Stop listening for understanding.
Right.
And we start disagreeing with condemnation.
I will say, though, it is distracting, though, right? Sometimes it distracts from the message. Like, when somebody's giving you it literally is a break in the presentation, the conversation, whatever it is. And for me, it's so hard to get fluidity and momentum in a presentation conversation with those breaks in there. And it's less about being a professional and delivering a professional type speech and more about me being able to turn my brain off and just absorb it, right? Like I was talking about.
I know when I get into my slow mode, I could be difficult for people to listen to. When I'm going through, we haven't talked about medication at all. Medication, that's one of the frustrations I have right now is the particular medication I'm on because of my high blood pressure slows me down, which has been good in that I've kind of needed to have an enforced slowness so that I can see, so that I can choose better. It also is like it has eliminated my ability to, or it dampens my ability to just default to kicking in adrenaline.
Which we talked about is huge for our performance, right?
Right?
Like that's major.
Yeah, but it's a good thing for me because I've been relying too heavily on it and it has huge health tolls for me. But it's like, okay, so how the hell do I function? Because I can't, nothing works for me to function right now. And I keep trying to move my head because my glasses reflection is, as the light changes, it moves to a different spot.
Sure.
But okay, so when I go slow, I know I can be difficult to listen to, and it's hard. But that's part of how I'm trying to pull out all my thoughts because I have too many of them at once. And then I have to sort them and try to figure out and do all of that
you're able
to
identify them and count them as we have conversations. You're like, 3 different branches on this conversation.
At least. Those were just the big ones, right? Those
like,
were just the...
For me, I get them.
That was just the low-hanging fruit.
I can't hold them long enough to even count them or process them. It's just like I get these blurbs or like these blips of ideas of like, oh, I want to interrupt or, oh, I want to talk about this. But as soon as I try to acknowledge them, like they're just off to the ether. Right.
That happens too.
So your pace, you're talking about slowing down in general. Like for me, it's weird because I feel like I'm on both sides of the spectrum as far as pace and cadence. I I obviously get very excited and I can get loud and I can
Mm-hmm.
get very energetic, right? And that's a big part of me, but there are also tons of situations in which I need to slow down to understand. A lot of understanding and learning has to be at a slower pace than the actual fast, exciting,
Mm-hmm.
deliverable, kind of catchy stuff. I need to actually slow down, kind of pace myself to develop understanding. And so
Mm-hmm.
much, and I think that has to do with, what I've been talking about with like conversations in general. If I have to actually pull something out, I need that information kind of delivered at a slower pace, so I
Right.
can I can mentally juggle all of that, and kind of focus on two things at once. But if
Or
it's
have
a
it repeated.
right, but if it's just a general conversation where I don't need to get anything out of it, or it's not highly important or whatever, I prefer a faster pace, a faster tone, a faster
Mm-hmm.
cadence. Do you find yourself like, in both of camps, or are you more just like a?
I'm in both camps. I'm in totally both camps.
I think that's so interesting.
Um, there's some stuff that I'm like, okay, I processed and I'm done. What do we do to the next step? And that's why I always have something else
Right.
that I can work on, focus, do so that I can handle it. Sorry, I need to switch positions
I
just a
get.
little bit. Um, so that I can process, so that I can sit and pay attention possibly as the other person's going slow,
Right. Oh yeah, that's a good point.
right? So if the other person starts to slow down, if I'm going to stay in a space that I listen for understanding, then I need to be paying really close attention to me and where I'm at and what I'm feeling.
Right.
And if I'm getting impatient with them because they're not going fast enough, or whatever. And sometimes I kind of have to push. Oh, we haven't said what I do. I do conflict manage. I do conflict resolution for a living.
Right.
So listening for understanding is kind of important in what I do.
Just, I mean, maybe a little, right?
Just a skosh,
Right.
just. And so one of the things that I pulled out of that, that has been so beneficial to me from that, never split the difference, was the how and what questions, and the summarizing. Okay. So you and I have just kind of been going back and forth and playing right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I was working for listening understanding, I might have, when you finish that last bit about the speed at which you hear it,
Mm-hmm.
I probably would have said, so it's really important for you. So seems like it's really important for you to, it's really situation dependent is what it really is. What kind of and how you need to process that information. So it's really kind of a big deal to assess and figure out how you need it at which time.
Right. I don't.
And it feels so good to have people
Right.
do that for you.
How much of that do you think is just more enriching, just conversation, right? And
I
how
think it
much,
can
like,
absolutely.
that's
I
why I
think
feel
as a
like,
society, we could
right.
completely work on that and
That's what I
enrich
feel
our
like when I
conversations.
read that book is, he's not doing these tips exactly actively. Like, sure, he's trained himself, and I'm sure, like, in the beginning, he's had to do this, but it's not even like an active thing that he has to think about, right? And
Yeah, he
and
just does it now.
and so much of like what you're saying is that awareness, and I wonder, in your training, like, did you ever, was it similar to when you got
I
diagnosed, where you
give,
got this language that
yeah,
allowed
there's a
you
little
to
bit.
help, like, become that meta-analysis
There's a little
level?
bit. Absolutely. Absolutely there was. And so, and I do trainings on it. I train people
Right.
on how to do some of this stuff. And it's been really fascinating how what kind of results people are getting and how they like them. And so if I just kind of when I always now I'm using a categorical, and we know that only cis deal in absolutes, right?
Right.
So when I'm in a difficult conversation, I'm going to really make sure that I'm being much more present with those types of things and that I'm in that listening for understanding mode. Because what I know about conflict is people can't listen until they've been heard.
That's important, right?
Yeah.
That's
And okay, so because I'm with you and I can do this, this is one of the beautiful things about talking to people with ADHD. I'm with you, so I can do this. So I can sit here and share, wow, as I said that out loud with you in this moment, I've said it hundreds of times, but because we're in this poking at it mode,
right.
I suddenly went, oh, and that's true for ourselves too. We can't listen to new things until we've been heard.
Right.
I can't listen to new ways of sleeping until I've been heard that I sleep this way for a reason. We set this up for really, really good reasons. Until I listen to myself about why those reasons, what those things were, what got put in place, and why myself is going to have nothing to do with all these ideas
right.
about fixing it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's very introspective, but yeah, I agree completely. Like, so much, well, and a lot of that is understanding, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to get to, right? And I feel like a huge part of that has come to light, in the last year since my diagnosis is that understanding. And we circled around it a few times. I think it's been, a game changer for me. Before we're coming down to the end of it here, but
Oh yeah, we've got 15 minutes.
but before,
I knew when we went in there, I'm like, I'm just going to have Spencer. We're going to feel like this is too
right,
short.
right.
We're going to get to the end and go, wait, I need more. I need more. I
Every
need
time,
more.
and every time I do this podcast too, it's like my time blindness just flares up, right? And I don't even think about it. But yeah, we've been doing this for an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes. It doesn't feel anything like that. But I wanted to ask, since your diagnosis or since you've been on TikTok, have you, obviously you've pulled in a lot of information, but what is your favorite kind of life hack or change that you've made, just like a small thing that's made a huge difference for you?
Okay. As soon as I tell you that, this is the first thing that came to mind. And as soon as I tell you that you're going to be like, oh no, that's like the big thing. That's like a big, big thing. But for me, it's the little thing that I have to do all the time. And it's reminding myself, and the realization and the continual reminder of myself that I'm not broken.
No, it's
that
big.
I don't
It
have
is
to
big.
fit in.
You're right, but I totally
That I
get what you're
don't have to
meaning.
fit in.
How small
That's
that
the
is.
hack. that's the hack, to just on a no, it's not that because what the scripts, oh God, those scripts, so strong, so powerful, so mean.
Right.
And the little pebble that I put in the stream, right? The little rock that I put in the stream. Love that guy that does the balancing rocks on TikTok. Have you seen this?
Oh yeah, where he stacks them.
Oh, okay. Love that. That rock that I put in the stream that just changes things just a little bit is, wait, that's not true.
Right.
This one was the truth. I'm not broken.
Right.
This
and
isn't
I love
shameful.
how you say it's a big thing and a little thing, because it's just that one little thought, right? And you're talking about it can change the whole flow and direction of that river, of your life, of your day, whatever it is. You're exactly right, though. It is a small thing to think that thought, but it is massive in the impact and the role that it plays, right? Like this.
Another really huge kind of thing that I got into for a while was learning about habits, because I mean, this is still me trying to fix me, right? But I can still, the information is still true and valid, and I can use it. And it's I did a deep dive into habits.
Did you read Atomic Habits?
I read Atomic Habits.
I got that one on the
I read
there.
Small Change, Big Move, I think is
I haven't read that one.
The Way It Goes. I also, The Power of I did
deep dive. Okay.
I did habits. Okay. So, because I'm trying to figure out how it works.
Sure.
Because I'm trying to figure out how to fix myself. Right? So, that little thing of you're not broken, then I can suddenly go, oh yeah, that's right, I'm not broken. So what is going to be most effective right now?
Right.
It leads to a completely different question.
Right, yes. Exactly, right. Yeah, you change, you're no longer trying to fix anything wrong with you, right? You're trying to take the tools and equipment that you have and problem solve at that point, right?
What's going to be most effective right now?
And there's no default blame or default write-off in the way that you phrase it. I love that. Like, definitely.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, Jen. Like,
so
I love that.
What's going to be most effective right now? And if something doesn't work, or if there's a problem, or if it's like, okay, I keep pushing this boulder up the hill and the next day it's right back at the bottom, I kind of go, I question my assumption. Does this boulder really need to be at the top of the hill?
Right.
Does it really?
There's that questioning, right?
Can we work with it down here? Can we put something else up there that might be easier? What would be more effective right now?
Right. And you don't get mad at yourself when the boulder doesn't get at the top of the hill because you found a different solution, right?
And suddenly it's not like,
internalization, there's no guilt, there's no shame.
You didn't get it secured, you didn't get it whatever, and now the boulder's right back at the bottom of the hill again.
Right.
It's like, this boulder okay, why am I pushing this up?
It's a huge,
just start questioning the assumptions
in the mindset, right? Like I really like that. Like you've blown me away a few times with primarily the way that you position yourself into a scenario or into a thought process. Like I just love that perspective, Jen. Like it's not something I'm easily able to do, is kind of step outside and take a look at not just the situation, but how I'm reacting inside the situation. It's huge.
I love it. Okay,
You've
so
given
here
me
I am.
So much to think
here's
about.
how I influence the system. Here's how I'm part of the system here.
Right, because I'm great at seeing the big picture, but so often I'm not within any of that structure or any of that picture. I really enjoy the way you think and the way that you talk about this.
Now, I'm talking to you, and I really want to do this disclaimer for all of the people that might be watching, all of your mom that might be watching.
Hi, Mom.
Right? Hi, Mom. And that is, I'm describing my intention. I'm describing what happens when I remember,
Right.
when it's working. I absolutely, when I get close enough to people, call them up in shame spirals. And there may be a day that I call you up and say, Spencer, you know what I'm needing to look at. I am stuck right in here, and this is what's going on. And I can't get outside it enough to see.
Right.
And that's one of the most beautiful parts about Brene Brown's work is that shame work, and to reach out and to know how to cope with the shame when the shame gets triggered.
Right. Oh yeah.
So that you know how to deal with your shame spirals. And RSD becomes a part of those spirals. Our
It's what
perfectionism,
feeds
all
it.
of those
Yeah.
things they start doing that. And to have a few places that you go so you can do it. And sometimes TikTok is that. It's okay, I need this. I need something to connect with. I need to speak it.
Yep.
It's a struggle day. And then I start hearing, as soon as I speak that out loud on TikTok, God damn it, it's a struggle day. Yes. And there are ways and there are things. Okay. And it's okay to struggle. Naming it, identifying it, and knowing that somebody might see that and go, thank you.
Right. That's
Because
the
I
other
have
side
had
of
that
it.
experience.
Right.
Because I have had that experience of somebody doing that. Do I do it so people can do it? No. I do it because I need to speak it out into the world.
Yep.
Does it absolutely do so much for me when other people resonate and say, oh, this is what, yeah,
Of course.
for
Right?
sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I'm about connection.
I love that you
But people
talked
can't
about.
connect with something that doesn't
Right.
exist,
There's
right?
a duality there of you're posting just to vocalize it for yourself, which for me that's like my biggest thing, right? Is
Constant reminder of that.
it is great processing for me to be able to vocalize it because I'm less likely to just keep ruminating on it,
Mm-hmm.
right? But there is that kind of interactive aspect of it too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I say like I do all my posting just for me, but
Mm-hmm.
the aftermath of it, the result of it, are these fantastic
But when I
interactions
see
with
your
other
thing and
people.
put a little blurb on it of, yep, I'm right there, you go, yep,
Right,
okay. And it just
exactly.
changes things just a
Right,
little bit
right,
more.
and it helps. Like that side of it helps
Mm-hmm.
too. Like, and that I think it's so cool, and I think it's really awesome that you mentioned it. That there are two different things going on in that scenario, and it's not just like people. I hear it all the time, like, why are you posting this? Well, people don't say it to me, but people are just jerks online in general.
Yeah.
Like, why are you posting this? Keep it to yourself, whatever. And it's like that person may
Scroll
not be
on.
posting for you at all. like I like to joke that like about half of my videos I would like nobody to see or interact with, right?
Yeah, you
Because
just
a
needed them
lot
to
of
be
it
out in the
is
space.
just to be away from like my own thoughts, right? But when people do connect with those videos, it is also, for me, it's relieving, right? I know some people might
Mm-hmm.
say it's validating and or like whatever, or just makes them feel good. For me, it's relief,
Affirming.
right? Well, I wouldn't even say so much that, just the fact that somebody's like, oh yeah, I'm going through
No,
that
other
too. It's
people would say
right,
it's affirming
right, right.
is what I'm saying.
I
Yeah, there was
For me, it's like
too many things went too
that
quickly right there.
that that exhale moment is almost like that feeling where like, oh,
Okay,
okay, yeah,
now
somebody
what am I gonna
else
do?
gets it. Like, it's not just me out here struggling. And like the fact that there's other people struggling. The same struggle sucks, right? But it's good too in a way. And like so much of my interactions are kind of like that on TikTok, where it's very positive, and there's like this flip side, this opposite side of the coin that you also have to deal with too. And
it dispels the shame.
It does. It does.
Because the shame can only grow when it can whisper in the dark. If you look at TV shows and all this kind of stuff and anything, what is the biggest conflict in any of them? Somebody keeps a secret.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody has a secret, and it eats them up inside, and it has all of those messages about, I can't tell. Bridgerton that I just watched last night. It's those damn secrets.
Right. Well, and that just ties into communication. Like, that's the biggest storyline, right? Is just lack of communication amongst people.
I would yell at books when I was a kid because I couldn't figure out why they couldn't, just because I wanted communication. I wanted it so much. And I sometimes would actually yell at the books, just tell him.
Right.
Just tell her. Don't walk away. You've got to say something.
I actually have this theory that movies got worse when like iPhones came out, because it took out a whole genre of miscommunication that's easily solvable with like a text message or a phone call. So you don't see the movies where people are like traveling around town trying to find each other anymore.
Yeah.
Like so much of that has been like solved. Like so many of those problems are just kind of written out now.
Yes.
Right?
What's the one with Cary Grant and the Empire State Building? Why can't I remember the name of this movie?
I know what you're talking about.
You knew it, right? Until
right.
I said, until I described it, right? So yeah, that movie, and everybody who's watching this is yelling the name of it. But anyway, how would that movie have been different if everybody would have had a phone?
Right.
If everybody involved would have had a phone with and then you have to try to like contrive new variants, like the battery died,
right.
or
exactly, some kind of disaster has to happen.
The cell phone service is gone, or it's being jammed.
Right. The thing that cracks me up though is, right, in life we have this device that's made communication so much easier, but it hasn't alleviated any of the communication problems, right? Like, and so much that is because we are actively concealing, like trying to hide, trying to put on the best form of ourselves, that we still have all of these issues, right? Like we have the most streamlined communication methods, and we still have the exact same communication problems.
That's one of the other reasons I really love polyamory, and why why I love relationships that I'm building now, is because I can establish them with, this is what my context is of how I operate.
Right.
Okay. And this is what I want my relationship agreements to look like. And cheating, even if you're platonic, right? The definition of cheating or breach or something that might be unrecoverable or really hard is a breach of that relationship agreement.
Right.
And we got to end. Was there anybody that had did anybody ask questions on the Twitch?
Oh, I don't even have the
You don't even have it up?
No, I like to shut it all down and just be super
So you
focused.
only focus on,
Right, because I did it the first episode.
Because otherwise we'll start,
and I tried to read back and forth, and it's not the quality conversation that we got today. I love this in this setting, and just allowing people to see the interaction between two neurodivergent people. I think it's super awesome. It's super important. We have tons of conversations, me and you. So I love that people can see this, because this is what we do.
Get we a just little sit insight. Down and this is what we do.
We literally did this.
And we cry.
Right, yeah.
We get emotional in the middle of Starbucks. Or the pizza place.
For sure.
Or whatever.
Happens. Yeah, that way I can focus on my guests. Uh, awesome, Jen. Well, I need to go check on my son. He's upstairs running amok.
Once you post it on YouTube, let me know.
Yeah.
And I'll answer questions. I'll try to come in and answer some
For sure.
in the comments.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll totally do that, and I'll let you know when I have it up. Should be later tonight. I don't have to do any edits, which is amazing about this show. I just have to upload it. So, all right, Jen, thank you so much for coming on. Oh, do you want to let people know where to find you?
Oh, I'm at Genevieve's TikTok, JENNEVIVES TIKTOK.
There you go.
That's the best place to find me.
Right.
Comment on my stuff. Once I get to know you, you can do more conversing.
Right. Yeah. And like Jen said, she'll be more than happy to answer any questions on YouTube. I'm Spencer.
Well, I might not answer them, but I will try to address them.
I'm Spencer, Dopamine Dysfunctional on almost all the platforms. Thank you for stopping by and sitting with us. Join us next week, or actually next week I'm out of town, so it'll be the week after that we have our next show. So a little bit of a hiatus before the next one, but thank you everybody for joining. I'll catch you later.